Okay, so this is the Black Hills Children's Home Society. This is where Serenity Denard was last seen leaving this area after the one girl had already left the gym. She ran out on her own out to Rockerville Road here. Last seen heading north, I believe it was. So it would have been that way. Okay, so welcome back to the channel. Earlier this year, me and Cassie decided we were going down to the 85th annual 2025 Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. And as you know, whenever I go places, anywhere I go, I try to look into cases in the area so I can make a video on it. And this is one I've actually been planning on making for quite a while. So I took the opportunity while I was down there to actually visit the area, as I like to do. So let's just get into it. Today we are talking about the disappearance of Serenity Denard.
It's now been 4 days since 9-year-old Serenity Denard walked away from the Black Hills Home Society.
On Tuesday night, authorities moved the search from a rescue to a recovery effort. The Pennington County Sheriff's Office says if Serenity has been outside this entire time, it's unlikely she survived.
However, they have not ruled out the possibility that she could still be alive in a warm shelter or was picked up by someone.
On February 3rd, 2019, a 9-year-old girl named Serenity Denard went missing from the Black Hills Children's Home in Rockerville, South Dakota. And Rockerville is a small town near Rapid City. It's on basically the same road as you would use to go from Rapid City to Mount Rushmore. But before we get into the actual day that she went missing and what led up to her disappearance, we kind of got to go over what her life was like growing up, because Serenity didn't have exactly a normal upbringing. So whenever Serenity was first born, her parents both had drug addiction problems, from my understanding, and she was taken by the state and put into foster homes. She ended up living in like around a dozen different foster homes growing up, and due to this constant moving around, she never really got to grow a bond with any exact one adult figure. Kind of like you have parents, I have parents. We know that they are our parents. We know, that's kind of a person that's there for you your entire life. Serenity didn't have that, and she ended up actually being diagnosed with a disorder known as RAD, which also stands for Reactive Attachment Disorder. She was also diagnosed with DMDD, and I say that because I cannot pronounce the actual words, but it basically, she's very irritable, she lashes out at people, and she's prone to anger issues. Serenity was eventually adopted by Chad Denard and his wife Darcy Gentry in October of 2014. However, to pile on to the inconsistency of who her caregivers are, in 2015, Chad and his wife Darcy did eventually divorce, and Chad ended up getting sole custody of Serenity with his new wife Cassandra. But as I mentioned before, with these behavioral issues that Serenity had from all this, inconsistency growing up, she would try and run away multiple times, and eventually Chad and Cassandra would admit her to the Black Hills Children's Home for around a year. Is what the plan was, that she would spend a year there and then she would go home after she worked on kind of these issues that she's dealing with. So Serenity had actually tried to run away from the children's homes multiple times before this, and she would actually try and get other kids to run away with her. One instance that really stood out to me was whenever she asked the lunch lady at the home if she could bag up her food for her. Later, Serenity would actually pack a bag and take her food with her and try to run away. She actually made it out of the facility quite far, but they did eventually find her. But the day that Serenity did actually disappear was kind of a strange day. That day, Serenity was in the gymnasium of the Black Hills Children's Home. She was being watched by 2 caregivers, but she was not alone. There was another child with her. Now, this other child started to have a fit, and I believe, from my understanding, either the child was having a fit or the child had actually tried to run out the gym, and the 2 caregivers were attending to this child whenever Serenity took this opportunity to run out of the gym and into the cold. A couple of visiting parents claimed to have seen her run out of the gym and into the parking lot, but they last spotted her running north on about 50 yards on Rockerville Road. So this is the Black Hills Children's Home Society. This is where Serenity Denard was last seen leaving this area after the one girl had already left the gym. She ran out on her own out to Rockerville Road here. Last seen heading north, I believe it was. So it would have been that way. And this, of course, was in sub-zero temperatures in February of 2019. So you gotta imagine, like, right now it's beautiful. But in 2019, in February, sub-zero temperatures, extremely cold. She couldn't have got too far. She had no jacket. What the hell was going on to make her want to leave here? I know she had some kind of behavioral issues, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm gonna film a little bit around here, just so you guys see how thick these trees are. This is the middle of the Black Hills, in the middle of like nowhere. We had to drive quite a bit to get out here. On foot, no jacket. Which launched what was possibly the largest search in South Dakota history for a single person. Multiple counties got involved. Searchers in the thousands went through all these woods. No sign of her. It's very possible that, you know, she was picked up by somebody, because it doesn't make any sense that she would have got too far. And with all those people looking and they have no sign of her, it's very strange. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What exactly was going on to have that happen? I mean, look how big these mountains get. That's like a small one around here. Just thick forest, wooded area. Doesn't make any sense. I have to mention that this was western South Dakota in the Black Hills. Very heavily forested area. And in February, I believe temperatures were at -5 degrees. It gets extremely cold out there. Serenity, at the time that she ran out, was only wearing a gray long sleeve shirt, a pair of blue jeans, snow boots, and temperatures would set in with somebody like that in around 30 minutes. The Black Hills Children's Home was miles from any other main roads, and honestly it would be hard for an adult with proper equipment to make it that far. One thing I found strange is how long it actually took for the Black Hills Children's Home to call the police. They claimed that they took the time to search their facilities before they called the police and reported her missing. It was an hour and 20 minutes before they ever called the police. And as I mentioned before, a child of her size without proper equipment on and these temperatures, hypothermia would set in within 30 minutes. So an hour and 20 minutes, it's very possible that she was already passed away by the time they had called the police. In fact, people freeze here in South Dakota every winter. I read about it every year. Somebody's car will break down. They'll be a couple miles from, a town or maybe in some houses, and they figure, hey, I'll just walk to the next town or to those houses. And it never fails that they're found less than a mile from their car, frozen. Just this last year, winter 2025, a 16-year-old boy broke down on Highway 137, just north of Nebraska. Broke down, decided to walk to his nearest house. His family found him 150 yards from his car, frozen to death. I'll post a link to the article if you guys want to read about that.
County Sheriff confirms that our recent frigid weather has turned deadly. A 16-year-old boy's body was found out in the cold on Sunday. Authorities believe his vehicle had become stuck in tire ruts. Family members found him 150 yards away. Authorities believe he died because of the freezing weather.
So for the children's home to take over an hour and 20 minutes to call the police to start the search, with the law, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially since this is not an unknown thing here in South Dakota, that these temperatures kill. Another thing I found strange was that this is 2019. The Children's Home Society did not have security cameras on the outside of the building. If they did have security cameras, police could have watched the security cameras to try and determine to which direction she had, actually went. I know we have eyewitness accounts, but it still would have been really helpful to have this kind of security camera system. I don't understand why they wouldn't have it in the first place, seeing how they do take care of children at this facility. It's just common sense that cameras would be there. Once the police did show up on the scene, they launched a massive search. Within 24 to 48 hours, they had hundreds of people searching, from the Pennington County Sheriff's Office as well as other law enforcement agencies. They had dogs searching as well as helicopters in the air doing aerial searches. That first day, they stopped searching around 10 p.m. due to rain that turned into snow, and obviously freezing temperatures had to pull people off the search. The searches for Serenity continued for almost 2 years, with over 1,500 searchers, 66 different agencies involved, but it was eventually suspended in January of 2021. Serenity has never been found, and with all the strange things that led up to her disappearance, many people have come up with a lot of different theories. The first theory is people believe that she was either picked up or abducted. Maybe this whole thing was planned out and somebody told her to run out and they would pick her up. A post was made to the Missing People subreddit that showed a girl that looked extremely close to Serenity. I thought it was Serenity, and I'll show you a video of it now. But yeah, it turns out that this was not. But even though this was determined not to be her, that is still a big theory that people have, was that she was abducted. The second theory is people don't believe she ever left the children's home to begin with. People believe that she might have died accidentally due to some sort of negligence. I'm not saying that's what happened, I'm saying that this is a theory. But I was reading on Reddit about the children's home in Rockerville that many people who stay there claimed that the staff was overly abusive. One person claimed that they were heavily drugged and abused at different times. Like I said, I can't prove that. I don't know that. I'm just telling you what I've read. Theory number 3. The third one happens to a lot of missing people cases, especially in these heavily wooded areas. Serenity Denard tried to take off, run away. She's tried this multiple times in the past and quickly succumbed to the elements. Freezing temperatures like that, a little girl, no coat, just boots on really. Sub-zero temperatures like this, she possibly fell, tried to find shelter from the cold, froze to death there, got covered by the snow, got covered by tall grass as the snow melted, and that she's still out there somewhere. I did read that the 2 caregivers that were supposed to be watching Serenity were let go eventually. Now, I want to point out that both her adopted parents and her biological parents have not given up the search for her, and they do believe that eventually she will be found. But as always, I am curious to what you think. Did she possibly get abducted? Was this possibly a case of death due to negligence? Or is it possible that she just ran out to the elements and passed away due to the violence of nature? But with that being said, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Like I said, leave a comment down below. Hit like, subscribe, share the video if you really want to help me out, and I will see you in the next one.